Ready? Yep. All right, guys, we'll call our city commission meeting to order at 7 p.m. March 16th, 2026. We've got a full board with, 4 of us present. Looks like Stephen Dye is on via Teams. Stephen, can you hear us okay? Stephen Dye, can you hear us okay? All right, guys, take note of that for voting purposes and whatnot. We may not be able to get a vote from them. But anyway, we do have a quorum tonight, so we can get right into the agenda. Let's start with our Pledge of Allegiance. All right, first up, we got our previous minutes. These are from the March 2nd, 2026 regular meeting minutes. Trust you guys have all had a chance to look at them, and if they look good, we'll just need a motion to approve them as written.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as posted.
I'll second.
All right, we've got a motion and a second to approve the minutes as posted. Let's move to a vote.
Yes.
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 And nothing from Stephen. I vote yes. Motion carries. All right, commissioners report. Go ahead, Kyle.
Good evening, everyone. I don't have a whole lot. We have met a couple times regarding the tree grant that I spoke of last meeting. That's in the process. We have gone out and talked to some of the homeowners regarding some trees that need to be cut down, as well as replanting some trees. So it's still in the process of getting that grant all put together. Secondly, we have a capital replacement regarding the tool cat that's on the agenda. We did have a water line break this morning on a hydrant up north of town on 13th Street. That will be repaired this spring. Other than that, the guys are just getting ready for spring items, and hopefully the weather is cooperative. Thanks.
All right, so as far as the finance department is concerned, payroll is done today. We got the bills on the agenda, and as well as the January and February financials that we'll see in the consent agenda. As far as new stuff, this week, the only super out of the ordinary thing is League of Cities training. So myself and a few of the ladies from the finance department will be attending that. Good job training, try to learn how to do our jobs better. So that should be very beneficial. So that's pretty much it for me.
Good evening. The police department, we still have 5 troopers. And we got 4 people in school. There'll be another week and a half on EMR. We'll be one of the better qualified police forces for emergency help on scene, which makes me happy. We've taken this year so far 750 calls. That runs about 10 a day. So we've been pretty busy over there. And I think we haven't found any doors unlocked or anything this year, so everything seems to be going pretty good. That's about all I have here.
Okay, busy.
Busy.
Stephen, you can take a stab if you got your phone figured out.
Okay, can you hear me, guys?
We got you.
Okay, so for the water department, the contractors will be starting to work on the lagoon on the 18th of this month. They said it's pretty set forward and should go pretty fast. So I'm happy to see how this gets completed and if everything goes as planned. Besides that, that's about all I have.
Okay, thank you. Guys, you got questions for Stephen at all?
No, I just would like to thanks Jason for making phone calls and keeping the ball rolling on that.
For me, I mean, it's been super light again, and I think that's just a testament to how good of a job you guys are doing individually in each one of your departments. Wendy and I were kind of, I don't know if you call it teasing each other or maybe groveling a little bit. The drama is just day over day drama is just kind of non-existent anymore. So it's really, really enjoyable watching everything kind of unfold in a very streamlined, well-oiled manner. A couple things that I've been working on, a little bit with Wendy as far as like policy updates, changing the verbiage. We're looking at that step schedule and trying to find a healthy version of what that looks like on a like merit-based percentage increase, a merit-based scale. And I know we've talked about it a little bit in the past, but really what I want to see done there is not handcuffing our employees to a calendar date on wage increases, promotions, things of that nature. I want to see them excel and get as far as they want to get based off of their performance and not feel like they're constrained to a 3-year calendar period. I think that's going to drive performance at a much higher rate. Not that we don't already have high performance across our employee base, but I think it incentivizes, putting your best foot forward and just grinding every day. So that's one of the things we're working on. We're also looking at some of the verbiage on when people opt to resign or retire or ultimately exit their employment with the city of Tioga, how we can make that more comfortable and easier on them because it is a transition in their life and we want to make sure we can accommodate that too. I don't want to rattle on too much, but another thing we're looking at is kind of creating some bench depth on our tech services type roles. As you guys know, we have a lot of outside sources helping us on our day-to-day type work, and there is opportunity to maybe bring some extra people, not at additional cost, but just different opportunities for quoting and looking at projects as a whole. So didn't get that to the finish line. I wanted to have that in front of you guys for this meeting, but for sure it'll be on the next meeting. As you know, what do we got? We got 67th Signal Road on the budget for this year on repairs. We need to be very careful on how we pursue those. If we do both, if we do one, if we don't do either one of them at all. As you know, the drilling program in this part of the state has pretty well died down to nothing right now. And the good news is we're in a very healthy financial position right now. So if we do pursue to do those or choose to pursue those projects, we can definitely do that. I mean, Jaden, especially that we can afford it right now. Or we could also decide to just kind of stand pat and wait to see how some of the geopolitical tension in the Middle East plays out and see if that drives any extra drilling activity. So we've got options, and the best part is they're both really good options. Like we are positioned very well to do what we want here. Lastly, I know Joy, you want to present some stuff for the community center, and that still kind of falls under my portfolio. So very interested to hear your guys' thoughts on what she has planned down there. And that is all I have. Okay, so modification or approval of the agenda. You guys want to pull anything out of the consent agenda or just kind of leave everything as is?
I guess I'm good with it to approve it.
Is that your motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as posted.
Second.
Okay, got a motion and a second to approve the agenda as posted. Okay, you look confused. Any discussion on that one?
Wording on it's a little off, but
Okay, we can amend it.
Yeah, my bad. I'll I'll amend my motion to approve the agenda as posted. Sorry.
I'll second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second to approve the agenda as posted. Well, let's vote on that one.
Yes.
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 And
Yes.
Okay, thanks, Stephen. Motion carries. All right, moving on to old business, legal report. Do you guys see Liz? There she is.
Here I am. Can you all hear me all right this evening?
You can.
Okay, super. Couple of items just for your reference. First, I want to thank Wendy and Dan Larson profusely for helping me. Tioga is going well, but the rest of my life as a lawyer has been pretty busy, and I have a kid home from the Middle East. You talked about that. I have a son who deployed, and he's back, so I've spent some time with him of late. So we're all very happy about that, but it's crunch time. And Wendy and Dan went out of their way and did fabulously, incidentally, by helping with the ordinance. It's our agenda item number 6, ordinance 2026-01. That was a huge time saver for me. They did a great job. I will be prepared to read into the record all 17 pages of it for you gentlemen this evening for the first reading. So anyway, it was 17 pages of good work, and I will do my part by reading it aloud, but I really did appreciate that a lot. I reviewed it and they did great. Other point of business, just to be aware of, is that in the Benson Street and/or Roller Coaster Road litigation over the last week, I have, at the request of other counsel, been setting up some depositions, additional depositions for the additional deponents that have occurred through the course of that suit. It's looking like there are probably going to be 2 deposition blocks. One of them is likely to occur at the end of April, if my memory is good, and it might not be. I want to say that's going to be April 22nd and 24th, but don't quote me on that. That should be close. And then I think we're likely to have another round of depositions probably in May or June, but those are to be determined at this point, but I'll keep you all posted and let you know what, if anything, that changes or reveals. Other point of interest this evening is that we, as I mentioned a few meetings ago, we are waiting for a couple of deadlines to run. I do plan, and by deadlines, I don't mean deadlines, that's the wrong word. We're waiting for some timelines to come to pass so that I might be able to announce some additional news on some prior matters we discussed. That's all I can say at this moment, but I think that I will have an update. I can tell you with near certainty, I will have an update one way or the other within the next 90 days on those matters. So I guess wait at the edge of your seats to hear about that. I think it'll be good news. Finally, I wanted to let you know that I know there have been a couple of emails that have come to pass. I know Mr. Knutson asked at, I think it was our last meeting during the community comment session about the Annabelle Homes title defects. There have been a few emails. Wendy has been good about following up on that. I think they were looking, maybe Josh and Wendy, to schedule a call with the title folks so we can have a sit down. Again, I was out most of last week with family stuff, and so I haven't scheduled that yet, but I imagine we're going to be able to get some of that figured out and sorted. Don't want the community to think we forgot about Annabelle. We haven't, and you know, there's movement there. We just haven't resolved it and had that meeting just yet. So that's my update for Annabelle Homes. Finally, I'm sure Josh will speak to it. I connected with Josh, and as to the contract regarding the ball field, which again was discussed last meeting, Brett, Josh and I went over that agreement. I know you had raised, I think rightly, the issue of the bonus payment. That's been removed. The other provisions did track with prior red lines I've done for agreements such as this, so I appreciated that. And the only point of concern, I think Josh and I discussed at any length, was the contractor's insurance. And frankly, it's not for the project. I'm talking their insurance for per accident, per employee. I'm not overly concerned about that. I told him we would bring it to your attention if you gentlemen wanted to change anything. But I think he had it at $1 million per employee per accident with $1 million cap. That would be the minimum insurance the contractor would have to require. Again, they're a contractor. And they, you know, they have their own policies and requirements. Obviously, they have workman's comp and all the other statutory features. So I don't usually get too into the weeds on that. But if that's something you gentlemen wanted to look at above and beyond what's standard or stock, that's fine with me, but I wasn't unduly concerned and I told Josh as much. So anyway, Josh will share with you the details of that project, but I think generally speaking with those amendments, that contract looked good. And so unless you have any questions with that, I will yield.
Guys, questions for Liz? Liz, I just want to make sure I heard you correctly, because it sounds like I am totally off the hook. I do not have to read all 17 pages of the ordinance tonight, right?
You are absolutely correct. In payment to Wendy and Dan, and for you guys being great bosses, I will read all 17 pages of that ordinance for you. Sold.
Okay, thank you.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, guys.
Bob can tell you I've been stressing about it for about 2 weeks here, so thank you.
All right, no problem.
Okay. All right, Josh, we see you.
Great. Are you able to hear me all right?
We can.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Real brief agenda for tonight. Just quickly on the ball field project, I included in the packet the list of contractors that had pulled plans as of the end or middle of last week. So there were about 12 plan holders, of which 5 were indicated as prime bidders. There have been 3 additional contractors to pull plans since then. So seems to be a fair amount of interest in the project. So good news there. Substantial completion date. So I did talk with, was able to get a hold of a few of the contractors on it. I know we chatted on this fair amount at the last meeting. Right now, what we set it at is June 15th. They did indicate a bit of concern over that. You know, in theory, generally they thought, you know, it's doable. Did express concern related to you know, timing of load restrictions and whatnot, which could impact their ability to get equipment to the site, depending on when those may go into effect and ultimately be removed. And just in general, you know, weather, it's a bit of uncertainty with weather in May and into early June. So they did express a little concern with that, potentially, and kind of generally indicated that it's doable, but a bit of concern. So if you guys want to consider pushing that back, maybe to July 1st is kind of what thought would maybe alleviate some of those concerns potentially, to provide a little more allowance in there for some uncertainty with weather and load restrictions and whatnot. So any thoughts on that?
How many of the plan holders voiced concern?
So there's 12 of them, 12 total plan holders, of which 5 are prime bidders, and I was able to get in touch with 3 of them and chat that through. I wasn't able to get in contact with the other 2 that were listed as prime bidders.
So 3 of the 12 then are concerned with the timeline?
Yeah, yep.
That's unfortunate, because the timeline is the timeline. We need to get this done. I think, you know, we've been talking about it since November of 24. There's
Yep.
no shortage of urgency on this one.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, we'll
see if they take you seriously or not.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, we'll just proceed with that completion date and go from there. So that is all I have for this evening, unless there's any further questions.
Guys, I got a question. That's not unreasonable, is it? Or is that just too aggressive? I mean, I get concern on timelines and all that, and you always ask for a little extra. I mean, this is the time to negotiate if you're a contractor bidding on a project, but I just feel like we've been kicking the can down the road for so long on this. I'm kind of tired of delaying this thing. So you tell me what you guys think.
I don't see another 2 weeks hurting anything. As long as they're absolutely sure that it could be completed by then. So I mean, I would be okay with pushing till July 1st, but I'm good with either. But I don't think 2 weeks extra would really hurt us any. But
I'm kind
I
of with
think we need
Jaden
to-
on that. If they can guarantee by July 1st it'll be done, then I would say that's acceptable. But if it's up in the air, then probably not.
I think June 15th is a great window. It's not like we're building a mansion over there. We're just doing some dirt work and ball field. So I think June 15th is plenty of time.
Yeah, I'm not gonna say what I think, you'd run me off. But it's just a ball field. Why don't we get our guy and go down there and he could have it in a couple of days where you could play ball on it, you know, and not get hurt. But this looks to me like since I've been here that everybody's dragging their feet. I don't know why. I don't understand it, but I haven't been here very long either. So it's just a matter of a place to play ball. So I'm not mistaken. We're not gonna have the Olympics there or anything.
No, but it does have to be a sort of professional ball field. I mean, it's gotta be regulation. It needs to be as nice, if not nicer, than what was yanked down to put the expansion up.
Well, I agree with that, but doesn't look like that big a project. Anyway. I'll defer.
Okay. Josh, do you need any sort of motion to extend the timeline for these plan holders?
Yeah, if you guys do want to move it, we should probably have a motion to revise that.
Okay, it sounds that way to me, so that's what you guys want to do.
You say July 1st, will it be done by July 4th, so we can have softball tournament, or will we be?
yeah, well, I mean, like if we're gonna set it for July 1st, that means like it's done. And if it's not done,
There's
Then
liquidated damages
not
that
gonna-
start July 2nd.
but
That's
we,
correct, Josh?
Yep.
And we are going to enforce that with the fury of 1,000 suns, correct?
Yep.
Okay, good. There? Okay. So July 1st? July 15th. What do you say?
June 15th.
June 15th? Hey Josh, one more time for giggles. What's the current timeline and what's the proposed timeline?
Currently, it's set for June 15th, substantial completion. And what I guess is up is pushing it back to potentially July 1st.
I'll make a motion that we move it to July 1st as a substantial completion date.
I'll second that.
All right, we got a motion and a second to move the substantial completion date for the ball field from June 15th to July 1st. Any discussion on that?
Again, like now it's open for discussion. We can run through everybody again, but like I'm fine with it being June 15th too. So if you guys feel pretty strongly about that, I'm good with that.
Well, weather's gonna make a big factor in this thing too. If you want it playable. So if you had it June 15th, you'd be lucky to get it by July 1st, I'll tell you that. That's the rainy season. If we have a rainy season, that's it.
Yeah,
Right, something to consider too. The rec kids. That, there's like a week or two left in July. Primarily, they do the very end of May and all of June. So you won't get a lot of rec use for it if you wait till the 1st of July.
And they typically finish off the year with tournaments anyway, so that would be a great opportunity to utilize both fields. Yeah, I don't know. I know it's only 2 weeks and this isn't an earth-shattering decision, one way or the other. I'm of the mind that we committed to making this what we'll call a wrong right with removing the field and not having one to replace it. I would really like to put our best foot forward and just push forward and get this thing done.
I agree with that.
Well, maybe with the June 15th deadline, even if it goes past that, that's still more of a guarantee that it'll be available for July 4th. So, I mean, I would probably agree with the June 15th.
Okay, any other discussion on that? Okay, so we still have that motion in a second to move the substantial completion date for the ball field from the 15th to July 1st. Let's vote.
No.
No,
No,
No.
No, Josh, motion fails. We're back to the 15th, okay?
Okay, we'll stick with that then. That is all I have, unless there's any questions for me.
Hey, Judy, anybody, do you guys want to ask Josh anything? Good. All right, moving on to new business. We got a capital replacement for that toolkit that keeps breaking down on us. Go ahead, Kyle.
Yeah, if, Jason, you mind coming up and giving a little backstory behind that, please? I'd appreciate it.
So a couple years back, the city purchased a toolcat. It has 450 hours on it. It's been to Bismarck one time, it's been to Williston twice, and I've worked on it 10 times. And each time I've fixed it, ran it for a day, couple hours, and it just keeps blowing. Hydraulic hoses, basically the seals, they won't warranty the work. So I think it was, like we always say, wait on a Monday or a Friday. So we've got a lemon. So kind of what we're asking is, we got a quote to trade it in and to get a new one. And they do have a new one on hand. So that is a workhorse. We use it a lot.
So a little more backstory. So it would be the same size of toolcat. So it would be a 56 size UW56. So the boot price would be $20,276.08. Would be what we'd have to pay. Like I said, It's been taken in multiple times, issues, they've replaced the high pressure block on the hydraulic system many times. It just continuously keeps breaking the same thing. And it's down more than it is functional. So we just, I think really feel it's a great time just to upgrade. I know you guys called Stanley,
Yep, I called Stanley.
and was it Wilston too? That used,
Stanley got the newer machines, and I called them and asked them if they're having any issues, the same issues or not. And they said they haven't had any issues with that. So,
Yeah, I don't, it's a no-brainer to me, because when it's not broke down, you guys are using it. I
Mhm.
think it's used.
Yeah.
So you guys should have a reliable piece of equipment, one that you can enjoy and not have to worry about breaking down, just let it work.
so I will make a motion to accept the quote from Bobcat in the amount of $20,276.08.
I'll second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second to accept the quote from Bobcat in the amount of $20,276.08. Any discussion on that one?
I don't know if I really don't know if that one was such a lemon, why we'd be looking at, is there anything to replace it besides the Bobcat?
Well, the one reason is the functionality with these tool cats. We kind of did misspeak. So it's a tool cat, it's a Bobcat's a brand, but it's a tool cat. So you can get in and out of the cab a lot easier. A Bobcat, you have to enter and exit from the front. These tool cats, you can get in and out like an SUV or a small pickup. So the functionality is there, as well as we have a box on the back. In the summertime, we throw a water tank back there. We water flowers with them. If we need to haul anything else, whether it's rake, shovels, gravel, dirt, we can use that as well.
And you got different attachments too, a
Yeah.
bucket, a sweeper, all the other stuff.
Mower.
Snow blower.
Yeah, so there's a whole host of Bobcat attachments too that we already own.
Yes.
All right, fellas, let's vote.
Yes, yes.
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 And yes, motion carries. Okay, next we got that Frontier Precision quote. You know a lot more about it than I do. I don't know if you wanna tell us what you know about it or why you want it, but it sounds like a good deal.
so we have an existing system. We pay a subscription monthly or a yearly on it. And basically what it does, it goes in hand with our GIS system. So what this will do, it's a handheld unit. I think the quote came with a battery, an antenna, and some other good stuff. Basically, what we're able to do with this handheld unit is walk up to a house, type in our grid points, and we're able to find a curb stop in that yard within a matter of, feet, if not inches. Instead of sitting there with our wand, trying to find this thing, sometimes it takes hours, sometimes we never find it. So with these points, we can basically walk up to this thing, get close, use our metal detector and find it. Once we do find it, we can take a picture of it, and actually it'll just sit there and we can download those pictures onto the big GIS. And for future note, we can just say, well, here it is, here's a picture of it. This is where we need to be. So, and it'll go with the stuff that we already have set up. So you can take grid points, property stakes. I know we're not in their survey business, but if Dan needed to get close, he can use it, have an idea of where property stakes are. We can watch our streets or manholes. We can take grades to see if the street's sinking or if our piping in the ground is sinking. We can do all kinds of stuff. I mean, it would be an awesome tool for the city. So. And on that bid as well, it comes with some warranty stuff, and it also comes with schooling. So they'll bring their folks out and give us a day class on it. We'll be able to teach everybody.
And I did speak with Josh as well with More. So this system is also compatible with More systems, so they're able to interlink all the information together, as well as anyone else that would need that. So it's all interchangeable, user friendly across the board. So it's just a great option to have. I make a motion to approve the Frontier Precision quote in the amount of $5,901.
I'll second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second to approve the quote from Frontier Precision in the amount of $5,901. Any discussion on that? Hey, let's vote.
Yes.
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 And yes, motion carries. Thank you very much for presenting both of those like that.
Yeah, thanks.
I learned everything I needed.
All right, thank you.
All right, new business number 5, we've got a 1% application, grant request. Would you like to come up and talk about that?
Sure. So in our budget, we have some event funds set aside, but we're kind of trying really hard this year to create events for different generations. So we've had something for young on Friday. We had Saturday, had a big family one. This one is the Alliance Brass. And I would like it approved either to come out of my budget, or I will apply for funding, but if funding isn't available, it would still be out of my budget. And I gave you guys a little printout about them. They are a brass ensemble, but they will offer classes and a chance for area students to play with them and participate too. That's a separate amount that I pay the musicians directly. They were booked through a booking agency. And so the 3,000 some that was through just for the act. And then there'll be another 700 if we decide to open it up for the high school students to be able to have a session with these professionals and an opportunity to play with them. So I'm hoping for approval either way, either if it has to come out of my budget, I do have money set aside for it, or if I'm able to, I'm going to apply for grant funds. And if we get it, then that would be the case there, both here locally and in Williams County. Their visitors grant.
Do you have an idea on what the price is for
Yes.
that brass group?
Yeah, I sent it to you. It's in
It's $5,900 for it, and then if you have $700 for
that the booking agent didn't know for sure. He thought that's about what it was, but that's a separate contract with the band members themselves.
Because on here it says the Alliance Brass is 5,900 in fees. And then there's another line item that says letters from home, 3,900.
Yeah, that one is being sponsored by the American Legion, and they're doing all of the costs for that. That was a special request by them. And I managed to find the band, get them booked, set it up. But that is theirs. It happens right after Veterans Day. So it kind of falls in line with them. So they're paying the costs for that one.
I would make a motion to approve the quote for Alliance Brass in the amount of $5,900.
I'll second.
All right, we got a motion and a second to approve the quote from Alliance Brass in the amount of $5,900. Any discussion on that one? Okay, let's vote.
Yes.
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 And yes, motion carries.
And I did speak with band director in Tioga. He's very interested in having some students participate, and I may open it up to some other, because it's on a Friday, so some students may be at football and things, so I'll probably open it up to, Ray, Powers Lake, if they have students who want to participate too. So.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, go time, 17 pages in all their glory. Liz, you want to start munching into the ordinance?
I will. All right, prepare to be dazzled. And wave if we cut out, because I don't want to do this twice. I'm going to read for you ordinance number 2026-01, an ordinance authorizing and imposing floodplain management. Be it ordained by the City Commission of the City of Tioga, North Dakota as follows. Floodplain management, statutory authorization, finding of facts, purpose, and objectives. Article 9, floodplain management. Section 5.0901, authorization. 1.1, statutory authorization. The legislature of the state of North Dakota in the North Dakota Century Code, chapters 40-05, 11-11, and 5806, delegated responsibility to local government units to adopt regulations designed to promote the public health, safety, and general welfare of its citizenry. Therefore, the Commission Board of the City of Tioga, North Dakota does ordain as follows. 1.2, findings of fact. 1, the floodplain hazard areas of the City of Tioga are subject to periodic inundation, which can endanger life, result in loss of property, create health and safety hazards, disrupt commerce and governmental services, cause extraordinary public expenditures for flood protection and relief, and impair the tax base, all of which adversely affect the public health, safety, and general welfare. 2, flood losses caused by the cumulative effect of obstructions in the special flood hazard areas cause increases in flood heights and velocities. Inadequately flood-proofed, elevated, or otherwise unprotected structures also contribute to the flood loss. 1.3, statement of purpose. It is the purpose of this ordinance to promote the public health, safety, and general welfare, and to minimize the public and private losses due to flood conditions in specific areas by provisions designed, 1, to promote human life and health, 2, to minimize expenditure of public money for costly flood control projects, 3, to minimize the need for rescue and relief efforts associated with flooding and generally undertaken at the expense of the general public, 4, to minimize prolonged business interruptions, 5, to minimize damage to public facilities and utilities such as water and gas mains, electric and telephone sewer lines, streets and bridges located in special flood hazard areas. 6, to help maintain a stable tax base by providing for second use and development of special flood hazard areas so as to minimize future flood blight areas. 7, to ensure that potential buyers are notified that the property is in a special flood hazard area. And 8, to ensure that those who occupy the special flood hazard zones assume responsibility for their actions. 1.4, methods of reducing flood losses. In order to accomplish its purpose, this ordinance includes methods and provisions for 1, restricting or prohibiting uses which are dangerous to health, safety, and property due to water or erosion hazards, or which result in damaging increases in erosion or in flood heights or velocities. 2, requiring the use of uses vulnerable to floods, including facilities which serve such uses, be protected against flood damage at the time of initial construction. 3, controlling the alteration of natural floodplains, stream channels, and natural protective barriers which help accommodate or channel flood waters. 4, controlling, filling, grading, dredging, and other development which may increase flood damage. And 5, preventing or regulating the construction of flood barriers which will unnaturally divert flood waters or which may increase flood hazards in other areas. 5.0902, definitions. Unless specifically defined below, words or phrases used in this ordinance shall be interpreted so as to give them meaning that they have in common usage and to give this ordinance its most reasonable application. Quote unquote appeal means a request for a review of the community director's interpretation of any provision of this ordinance or request for a variance. Quote, base flood or 100-year flood, end quote, means the flood having 1% chance of being equaled or exceeded in any given year. Quote, base flood elevation or BFE means the height of the base flood or 100-year flood, usually in feet measured in the same datum, either NAVD 88 or NGVD 29 as the firm. Quote unquote basement means any area of the building having its floor subgrade, parens, below ground level, end parens, on all sides. Quote, best available information. BAI means water elevation information from any source used to estimate or determine a flood base elevation, i.e. high water mark. quote unquote community means any political subdivision that has the authority to zone, or any Indian tribe or authorized tribal organization which has the authority to adopt and enforce floodplain management regulations for the areas within its jurisdiction. Quote, conveyance or hydraulic conveyance, end quote, means a geometric characteristic of a river or water course at a given point that determines the flow carrying capacity at that point. Quote, development, end quote, means any man-made change to improved or unimproved real estate, including but not limited to buildings or other structures, mining, dredging, filling, grading, paving, excavation, or drilling operations located within a special flood hazard area. Quote, existing manufactured home park or subdivision, end quote, means a manufactured home park or subdivision for which the construction of facilities for servicing the lots on which manufactured homes are to be affixed, including at a minimum the installation of utilities, the construction of streets, and either final site grading or the pouring of concrete pads is completed before the effective date of the floodplain management regulations adopted by a community. Quote, expansion to an existing manufactured home park or subdivision, end quote, means the preparation of additional sites by the construction of facilities for servicing the lots on which the manufacturing homes are to be affixed. And gentlemen, I will note, I think that needs to be corrected in the second reading. I'm on page 3, expansion to an existing manufactured home park or subdivision should be on which the manufactured, not manufacturing homes, are to be affixed, including the installation of utilities, the construction of streets, and either final site grading or the pouring of concrete pads. Quote, flood insurance rate map, FIRM, means the official map issued by the Federal Emergency Management Agency where special flood hazard areas are designated as Zone A, AE, AO, AH, A1 through A30, or A99. Quote, flood insurance study, end quote, FIS, means the official report provided by the Federal Emergency Management Agency that includes flood profiles, the flood insurance rate map, and the water surface elevation of the base flood. Quote, flood or quote unquote flooding means a general and temporary condition of partial and complete inundation of normally dry land areas from the overflow of inland or tidal waters and or from unusual or rapid accumulation or runoff of surface waters from any source. Quote, flood proofing, end quote, parens, dry, end parens, means protection provided by a structure together with attendant utilities and sanitary facilities, which is watertight 2 feet above the base flood elevation with walls that are substantially impermeable to the passage of water. Quote, floodway or regulatory floodway, end quote, means the channel of a river or other water course in adjacent land areas that must be reserved in order to discharge the base flood without cumulatively increasing the water surface elevation more than 1 foot. Quote, highest adjacent grade, end quote, means the highest natural elevation of the ground surface prior to construction next to the proposed walls of a structure. End quote, lowest floor, end quote, means the lowest floor of a structure, including the basement. Quote, manufactured home, end quote, means a structure transportable in one or more sections which is built upon a permanent chassis and is designed for use with or without a permanent foundation when connected to the required utilities. The term quote unquote manufactured home does not include a quote unquote recreational vehicle, but does include quote unquote a mobile home. Quote, manufactured home park or subdivision, end quote, means a parcel or contiguous parcels of land divided into 2 or more manufactured home lots for rent or sale. Quote, new construction, end quote, means structures for which the, quote, start of construction, end quote, commenced on or after the effective date of this ordinance. Quote, new manufactured home park or subdivision, end quote, means a manufactured home park or subdivision for which the construction of facilities for servicing of the lots on which the manufactured homes are to be affixed, including at a minimum the installation of utilities, the construction of streets, and either final site grading or the pouring of concrete pads is completed on or after the effective date of the floodplain management regulations adopted by a community, quote, person means any person, firm, partnership, association, corporation, limited liability company, agency, or any other private or governmental organization, which includes any agency of the United States, a state agency, or any political subdivision of the state. Quote, reasonably safe from flooding, end quote, means base waters will not inundate the land or damage structures to be removed from special flood hazard area, and that any subsurface waters related to the base flood will not damage existing or proposed buildings. Quote, recreational vehicle, end quote, means a vehicle which is A, built on a single chassis, B, 400 square feet or less when measured at the largest horizontal projection, C, designed to be self-propelled or permanently towable by a light-duty truck, D, D, designed primarily not for use as a permanent dwelling, but as a temporary living quarter or for recreational camping, travel, or seasonal use, including but not limited to E, travel trailers, trailers on wheels, park model trailers, and other similar vehicles. Quote, special flood hazard areas, SFHA, means an area of land that would be inundated by a flood having a 1% chance of being equaled or exceeded in any given year. Quote, start of construction, end quote, includes substantial improvement and the means of the date of the building means the date the building permit was issued, provided the actual start date of construction, repair, reconstruction, placement, or other improvement was within 180 days of the permit date. The actual start means the first placement of permanent construction of a structure on the site, such as the pouring of a slab or footings, the installation of piles, the construction of columns, or any work beyond the stage of excavation or the placement of a manufactured home on a foundation. Permanent construction does not include land preparations such as clearing, grading, and filling, nor does it include the installation of streets or walkways, nor does it include the excavation for a basement, footings, piers, or foundations, or the erection of a temporary form, nor does it include the installation on property of accessory buildings such as garages or sheds not occupied as a dwelling unit or part of the main structure. Quote, structure means a walled and roofed building including manufactured homes, and gas or liquid above ground storage tanks. Quote, substantial damage, end quote, means damage of any origin sustained by a structure whereby the cost of restoring the building is to be to its pre-damage condition would equal or exceed 50% of the market value of the structure before damage occurred. Quote, substantial improvement, end quote, means any repair, reconstruction, or improvement of the structure, the cost which equals or exceeds 50% of the market value of the structure, either one, before the improvement or repair is started, or two, if the structure has been damaged and is being restored before the damage occurred. For the purposes of this definition, substantial, quote unquote, substantial improvement is considered to occur when the first alteration of any wall, ceiling, floor, or other structural part of the building commences, whether that alteration affects the external dimensions of the structure. The term does not include, however, either one, any project for improvement of a structure to comply with the existing state, local health, sanitary, or safety code specifications which are solely necessary to assure safe living conditions, or two, any alteration of a structure listed on the National Register of Historic Places or State Inventory of Historic Places. Quote unquote, watercourse means only the channel and the banks of an identifiable watercourse and not the adjoining floodplain areas. The flood carrying capacity of a watercourse refers to the flood carrying capacity of the channel, except in the case of alluvial fans where a channel is not typically defined. The definition of a watercourse in NDCC section 610106 is not applicable in this ordinance. Quote, variance, end quote, means a grant of relief from the requirements of this ordinance, which permits construction in a manner that would otherwise be prohibited by this ordinance. Quote, violation means the failure of a structure or other development to be fully compliant with the community's floodplain management regulations. A structure or other development without the elevation certificate, other certifications, or other evidence of compliance required by a community's floodplain management ordinance is presumed to be in violation until such time as documentation is provided. Section 5.0903, general provisions. Land to which this ordinance applies. 3.1, this ordinance shall apply to all special flood hazard areas within the jurisdiction of the city of Tioga. 3.2, basis for establishing the special flood areas. The special flood hazard areas identified by the Federal Emergency Management Agency in a scientific and engineering report entitled, quote, the flood insurance study of the city of Tioga dated April 5, 1988, end quote, with an accompanying flood insurance rate map is hereby adopted by reference and declared to be part of this ordinance. The flood insurance study is on file at City Hall, which is located at 16 First Street Northeast, Tioga, North Dakota, 58852. 3.3, compliance, no structure land shall hereafter be constructed, located, extended, converted, or altered without full compliance in the terms of this ordinance and other applicable regulations. 3.4, greater restrictions. This ordinance is not intended to repeal, remedy, or impair any existing easements, covenants, or deed restrictions. However, where this ordinance and another ordinance, easement, covenant, or deed restriction conflict or overlap, whichever imposes the more stringent standard shall prevail. 3.5, interpretation. In the interpretation and application of this ordinance, all provisions shall be 1, considered as minimum requirements, 2, liberally construed in favor of the governing body, and 3, be deemed neither to limit nor repeal any other powers granted under state statutes. 3.6, warning and disclaimer of liability. The degree of flood protection required by this ordinance is considered reasonable for regulatory purposes and is based on scientific and engineering considerations. Larger floods can and will occur on rare occasions. Flood heights may be increased by man-made or natural causes. This ordinance does not imply that land outside of the special flood hazard areas or uses permitted within such areas will be free from flooding or flood damages. This ordinance shall not create liability on the part of the city of Tioga, any officer or employee thereof, or the Federal Emergency Management Agency for any flood damages that result from reliance on this ordinance or any administrative decision lawfully made thereunder. 3.7, severability. If any section, clause, provision, or portion of this ordinance is adjudged unconstitutional or invalid by a court of law, the remainder of this ordinance shall not be affected and shall remain in full force and effect. 5.0904, administration. 4.1, establishment of development permit. A development permit shall be obtained before construction or development begins with any special flood hazard area established by section 5.0903.2. Application for a development permit shall be made on forms furnished by the community director and may include, but not limited to, plans and duplicate drawn to scale showing the nature, location, dimensions, and elevations of the area in question, existing and proposed structures, fill, storage materials, drainage facilities, and location of the foregoing. Specifically, the following information is required. 1, elevation in the same datum, either NAVD 88 or NGVD 29 as the firm of the lowest floor of all structures. 2, elevation in the same datum, either NAVD 88 or NGVD 29 as the firm to which any structure has been flood-proofed. 3, certification by a registered professional engineer or architect that the flood proofing methods for any non-residential structure meet with the flood proofing criteria set forth under section 5.2-2, and 4, description of the extent to which any water course will be altered or relocated as a result of the proposed development. 4.2, designation of a community director. The community director is hereby appointed to implement this ordinance by granting or denying the development permit applications in accordance with its provisions. 4.3, duties and responsibilities of the community director. Duties and responsibilities of the community director shall include, but are not limited to, 4.3-1, permit review. 1, review all development permits to determine that the permit requirements of this ordinance have been satisfied. 2, approve or deny all applications for the development permits required by adoption of this ordinance. 3, review all development permits to determine that all necessary permits have been obtained from those federal, state, or local government agencies from which prior approval is required. 4, review all development permits to determine if the proposed development is located in a floodway. If located in the floodway, assure that the encroachment provisions of section 5.4 are met. 4.3-2, use of other base plane flood data. When base plane flood elevation data is not provided in accordance with section 3.2, called basis for establishing the special flood hazard areas, the community director shall obtain, review, reasonably utilize any base flood elevation data and floodway data available, parens known as best available information, and parens from any other federal, state, or other source as criteria for requiring the new construction, substantial improvements, or other development in the floodplain are administered in accordance with section 5.2 specific standards. 4.3-3, information to be obtained and maintained. Number 1, obtain and record the actual elevation in the same datum, either NAVD 88 or NGVD 29 as the firm of the lowest floor, including basement, of all new or substantially improved structures, and whether or not the structure contains a basement. 2, for all new or substantially improved flood-proofed structures, I obtain and record the actual elevation in the same datum, either NAVD 88 or NGVD 29 as the firm to which the structure has been flood-proofed. I maintain the flood-proofing certifications required in section 4.1 subpart 3, maintain for public inspection all records pertaining to the provisions of this ordinance. 4.3-4, alteration of water courses. The reasonable person shall, number 1, notify nearby communities, water resource districts, the North Dakota Department of Water Resources as necessary prior to any alteration or relocation of a water course, and submit evidence of such notification to the Federal Emergency Management Agency. Number 2, require that maintenance is provided within the altered or relocated portion of the said water course so that the flood carrying capacity is not diminished. And 3, notify the appropriate water resource district prior to the approval or placement of fill within 200 feet of the bank of a body of water during normal flow or stage. 4.3-5, interpretation of flood insurance rate map, firm boundaries. Make interpretation where needed as to the exact location of boundaries of the special flood hazard areas. For example, where there appears to be a conflict between a map boundary and actual field conditions, the person contesting the location of the boundary shall be given a reasonable opportunity to appeal the interpretation as provided in section 4.4 or 4.3-6, encroachment analysis. When a regulatory floodway has not been designated, the floodplain administrator must require that no new construction, substantial improvements, or other development, including fill, shall be permitted within zones A1 through 30 and AE on the community's firm unless it is demonstrated that the cumulative effect of the proposed development when combined with all other existing and anticipated development will not increase the water surface elevation of the base flood more than 1 foot at any point within the community. Under the provisions of 44 Code of Federal Regulation, Chapter 1, Section 65.12 of the National Flood Insurance Program Regulations, the community may approve certain developments in zones A1 through 30, AE, AH on the community's firm, which increases the water surface elevation of base flood by more than 1 foot, provided that the community first applies for and receives a conditional letter of map revision, CLOMR, through FEMA. 4.4 variance procedure. 4.4-1 Appeal Board 1. The City of Tioga Planning and Zoning Board, as established by the Commission Board, shall hear and decide appeals and requests for variance from the requirements of this ordinance. 2. The City of Tioga Planning and Zoning Board shall hear and decide appeals when it is alleged that there is an error in any requirement, decision, or determination made by the Community Director in the enforcement or administration of this ordinance. 3. Those aggrieved by a decision of the City of Tioga Planning and Zoning Board or any taxpayer may appeal such decision to the Williams County District Court as provided in North Dakota Century Code sections 40-4711, 11-3312, or 580314. 4. In passing upon such applications, the City of Tioga Planning and Zoning Board shall consider all technical evaluations, all relevant factors, standards specified in other sections of this ordinance, and the danger that materials may be swept onto other lands to the injury of others. I'm sorry, that should have been I, that part. The danger to life and property due to flooding or erosion damage. III, the susceptibility of the proposed facility and its contents to flood damage and the effect of such damage on an individual owner. IV, the importance of the services provided by the proposed facility to the community. V, the necessity of the facility of a waterfront location where applicable, tongue-tied. BI, the availability of alternative locations for the proposed use which are not subject to flooding or erosion damage. VII, the compatibility of the proposed use with existing and anticipated development. VIII, the relationship of the proposed use to the comprehensive plan and floodplain management program for the area. IX, the safety of access to the property in times of flood for ordinary or emergency vehicles. X, the expected heights, velocity, duration, rate of rise, sediment transport of the floodwaters and the effects of wave action, if applicable, expected at the site. And XI, the cost of providing governmental services during and after flood conditions, including the maintenance and repair of public utilities and facilities such as sewer, gas, electrical, and water systems, and streets and bridges. 5, generally, variances may be issued for new construction and substantial improvements to be erected on a lot of 1/2 acres to less in size. I think that should read on a lot of 1/2 acres or less in size. Contiguous to and surrounded by lots with existing structures constructed below the base flood level, providing items I through XI in section 4.4-1 sub 4 have been fully considered. As the lot size increases beyond 1/2 acre, the technical justification required for issuing the variance increases. Number 6, upon consideration of the factors of section 4.4-1 sub 4, the purposes of this ordinance, the City of Tioga Planning and Zoning Board may attach such conditions to the granting of variances as it deems necessary to further the purposes of this ordinance. Number 7, the community director shall maintain the records of all appeal actions Of all appeal actions, the report of any violations to the Federal Emergency Management Agency upon request. 4.4-2, conditions for variances. 1, variances may be issued for the reconstruction, rehabilitation, or restoration of structures listed on the National Register of Historic Places or the State Inventory of Historic Places without regard to the procedures set forth in the remainder of this section. Number 2, variances shall not be issued within the identified floodplain if any increase in flood levels during the base level flood discharge would result. Number 3, variances shall only be issued upon a determination that the variance is the minimum necessary considering the flood hazard to afford relief. 4, variances should only be issued upon I, a showing of good and sufficient cause, II, a determination that failure to grant the variance would result in exceptional hardship to the applicant, and III, a determination that the granting of the variance will not result in an increased flood heights, additional threats to public safety, cause fraud on or victimization of the public as defined in section 4.4-1 sub 4. Or conflict with the existing local laws and ordinance. 5, any applicant to whom a variance is granted shall be given written notice that the structure will be permitted to be built with the lowest floor elevation below base flood elevation, and that the cost of flood insurance will be commensurate with the increased risk resulting from the reduced lowest floor elevation. 5.0905, provisions for flood hazard reduction. 5.1, general standards. In all special flood hazard areas, the following standards are required. 5.1 sub 1, anchoring. 1, all new construction and substantial improvements, including additions, shall be anchored to prevent flotation, collapse, or lateral movement of the structure. 2, all manufactured homes must be elevated and anchored to resist flotation, collapse, or lateral movement. Methods of anchoring may include, but are not limited to, the use of over-the-top or frame ties to ground anchors. This requirement is in addition to the applicable state and local anchoring requirements for resisting wind forces. 5.1-2, construction materials and methods. 1, all new construction and substantial improvements shall be constructed with materials and utility equipment resistant to flood damage. Number 2, all new and substantial improvements shall be constructed using methods and practices that minimize flood damage. 3, all new construction and substantial improvements shall be constructed with electrical, heating, ventilation, plumbing, and air conditioning equipment, other service facilities that are designed to and or located so as to prevent water from entering or accumulating within the components during conditions of flooding. 5.1-3, utilities. 1, all new and replacement water supply systems shall be designed to minimize or eliminate infiltration of floodwaters into the system. 2, new and replacement sanitary sewer systems shall be designed to minimize or eliminate infiltration of floodwaters into the systems and discharge from the systems into floodwaters. And 3, on-site waste disposal systems shall be located to avoid impairment to them or contamination from them during flooding. 5.1-4, subdivision proposals. 1, all subdivision proposals shall be consistent with the need to minimize flood damage. 2, all subdivision proposals shall have public utilities and facilities such as sewer, gas, electric, and water systems located and constructed to minimize flood damage. 3, all subdivision proposals shall have adequate drainage provided to reduce exposure to flood damage. And 4, base flood elevation data shall be provided for subdivision proposals and other proposed development which contain at least 50 lots or 5 acres, parens, whichever is less, and parens. 5.2, specific standards. In all special flood hazard areas where base flood elevation data have been provided as set forth in section 3.2, basis for establishing special flood hazard areas, or section 4.3-2, use of other base flood data, the following provisions are required. 5.2-1, residential construction. 1, new construction and substantial improvement to any residential structure shall have the lowest floor, including basement, elevated at least 1 foot above the base flood elevation. 5.2-2, non-residential construction. Construction and substantial improvement of any non-residential structure shall either have the lowest floor, including basement, elevated to at least 1 foot above base flood elevation, or together with attendant utility and sanitary facility shall, 1, be flood-proof to at least 2 feet above the base flood elevation, so that below this elevation the structure is watertight with walls substantially impermeable to the passage of water. 2, have structural components capable of resisting hydrostatic or hydrodynamic loads and the effects of buoyancy. 3, be certified by a registered professional engineer or architect that the standards of this subsection are satisfied. Such certification shall be provided to the official as set forth in section 4.3-3, subsection 2. 5.2-3, manufactured homes. 1, required all manufactured homes be placed within Zone A shall be installed using methods or practices which minimize flood damage for the purposes of this requirement. Manufactured homes must be elevated and anchored to resist flotation. Collapse or lateral movement. Methods of anchoring include but are not limited to use of over-the-top or frame ties to ground anchors. This requirement is in addition to applicable state and local anchoring requirements for resisting wind forces. Number 2, require all manufactured homes placed or substantially improved within Zone A 1 through 30 AH or AE on sites. Outside of a manufactured home park or subdivision II, and a new manufactured home park or subdivision III, and an expansion to an existing manufactured home park or subdivision, or IV, in an existing manufactured home park or subdivision which has incurred substantial damage, be elevated on a permanent foundation so the lowest floor of the manufactured home is elevated 1 foot above base flood level elevation to be securely anchored to an adequately anchored foundation system to resist flotation, collapse, and lateral movement. 3, require that manufactured homes be placed or substantially improved on sites in an existing manufactured home park or subdivision within zones A 130, AH, or AE, not subject to other requirements of this section, be elevated so that either I, the lowest floor of the manufactured home, is 1 foot above the base flood elevation level, or II, the manufactured home chassis, is supported by reinforced piers or other foundation elements of at least equivalent strengths that are no less than 36 inches in height above grade, and be securely anchored to an adequately anchored foundation system to resist flotation, collapse, and lateral movement. 5.2-4, recreational vehicles. In I1 through 30 IH and IE zones, all recreational vehicles to be placed on a site must I, be elevated and anchored to meet with the requirements of 5.2-3, or II, be on the site for less than 180 consecutive days, and III, be fully licensed and highway ready. 5.3, shallow flooding, AO, AH zones, section 5.3 is only required if the community flood zones AO and AH appear on the effective firm. Located within the areas of special flood hazard established by section 3.2 are areas designated as shallow flooding. These areas have special flood hazards associated with base flood depths of 1 to 3 feet, where clearly defined channel does not exist, and where the path of flooding is unpredictable, and where the velocity of flow may be evident. Such flooding is characterized by ponding or sheet flow, and therefore the following provisions apply. Number 1, all new construction and substantial improvements of residential structures have the lowest floor, including basement, elevated 1 foot above the highest adjacent grade, at least as high as the depth number specified in feet on the community's firm. At least 2 feet if no depth number is specified. Number 2, all new construction and substantial improvements of non-residential structures I have the lowest floor, including basement, elevated 1 foot above the highest adjacent grade, at least as high as the depth number specified in feet on the community's firm, at least 2 feet if no depth number is specified, or II, together with attendant utility and sanitary facilities, be completely flood-proofed to the level to meet the flood-proofing standard as specified in section 5.2-2. 3, require all zones AH or AO adequate drainage paths around structures on slopes to guide floodwaters around and away from proposed structures. 5.4, floodways. Located within the special flood areas established in section 3.2 are areas designated as floodways. Since the floodway is an extremely hazardous area due to the velocity of floodwaters, which carry debris, potential projectiles, and erosion potential, the following provisions apply. Number 1, prohibit encroachments, including fill, new constructions, substantial improvements, and other developments, unless certification by a registered professional engineer or architect is provided, demonstrating that the encroachment shall not result in any increase in flood levels during the occurrence of a base flood discharge. Any increase, as used in this section, means any modeled impact greater than 0.00 feet. Number 2, If section 5.4 sub 1 is satisfied, all new construction and substantial improvements shall apply with all applicable flood hazard reduction requirements of this ordinance. Number 3, under the provisions of 44 Code of Federal Regulations, section 65.12 of the NFIP regulations, a community may permit encroachments within the adopted regulatory floodway that was result in an increase in BFEs, base flood elevations, provided that the community first applies and receives a conditional letter of map revision, CLOMR, through FEMA. 5.5 enclosures, new construction and substantial improvements with fully enclosed areas below the lowest floor that are usable solely for parking of vehicles, building access, or storage in any other area other than a basement, which are subject to flooding, shall be designed to automatically equalize hydrostatic flood forces on exterior walls by allowing for the entry and exit of floodwaters. Designs for meeting this requirement must either be certified by a registered professional engineer or architect, or meet or exceed the following minimum criteria. 1, a minimum of 2 openings having a total net area of not less than 1 square for every inch of square foot of enclosed area subject to flooding shall be provided. 2, bottom of all openings shall be no higher than 1 foot above grade. 3, openings may be equipped with screens. I'm going to mess up this word, louvers, valves, or other coverings or devices, provided they allow the automatic entry and exit of floodwaters. 5.0906 violations. 6.1 penalties for violations. 1, violation of the provisions of this ordinance or a failure to comply with any of its requirements, including violations on conditions or safeguard established in connection with grants or variances or conditional uses, shall constitute a misdemeanor. Any person who violates this ordinance or fails to comply with any of its requirements shall, upon conviction, be punished by a fine not exceeding $500 or imprisonment not to exceed 30 days, or by both such fine and imprisonment for each offense, and in addition shall pay costs and expenses involved in each case. Each day such violation continues shall be considered a separate offense. Number 2, nothing herein contained shall prevent the Commission Board from taking such other lawful action as is necessary to prevent or remedy any violation. And if you all like it, subject to those couple of corrections, it could be passed at the next reading, and the balance of this is just the signature and reading page. Whew.
Okay, we lost you at the very end there, but we think we got it. So, guys, unless you need Liz to run through that again real quick, we'll need a motion to approve the first reading of ordinance 2026-01.
I'll make a motion to approve the first reading of ordinance 2026-01.
I'll second.
We got a motion and a second to approve the first reading of ordinance 2026-01. Any discussion on that?
Thanks, Liz.
Yeah, thank you.
You're very welcome. I might just record myself for next time and replay that whole thing. That was a mouthful. Thanks, fellas.
I was thinking maybe some AI with Morgan Freeman with Shawshank music in the background.
Way better. Way better. All right. I'll listen in for the balance of the meeting.
Hey guys, let's vote.
Yes.
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 And yes, motion carries. All right, on to the consent agenda. We got bills, payroll, number 5 and 6, January and February financials, a conditional use permit for Tradelands RV, a conditional use permit for Gun Enterprises, a conditional use permit for R&R RV Park, the final plat for the Tioga American Legion, building permit for the Tioga Fire Department, a storefront improvement grant for the Pirates Gym, a Tioga Airport Authority Tioga Fund application, another Tioga Fund application for the Northwest Sportsman Association, and lastly, a Tioga Fund application for the Tioga Historical Society. Is there any of those that you guys want to talk about more in depth?
Well, we got the people from the Sportsman's Association here. If you guys want to speak a little on it, you sure can. It's a pretty big project, so, I mean, if you guys are here, if you wouldn't mind speaking a little bit on it.
Right now works, yeah.
Right now works, yeah.
If you want to too, I mean, we can read through the brief explanation, but as Jaden said, since you're
I
here.
just figured it'd be worth your time.
Yeah,
since
definitely.
through all that, if you'd like to talk about it a little bit.
Okay, still not really as my township meetings. Yeah, I'm Lane Ferguson. I'm president of Northwest Sports Association. We've got Brock Living and Kelsey Hansen back there. Brock's our newest board member. Kelsey's our treasurer. She's kind of actually the boss in disguise. We're looking for some funds to do pretty much a complete range renovation, I guess. We've got a very robust shooting team from the high school, and in the local community, we have people that come to shoot on our open and shoot nights. And the intention is to make our range up to code and to spec as far as the ATA, the Amateur Trap Shooting Association, and SSA, the National Skeet Shooting Association. The range was built and it was done nicely with well intentions, and it's just not quite to spec. And so we need to make that correct. And the current project would be all at one time so that we can maintain a safe shooting platform when there's people out there, right? You can't really move one range out in front of the other and keep things going. So that's the reason for the large asphalt at one time. So this would be phase one. Phase two, in time, we would like to build a larger clubhouse so that we could host events for the community, maybe have hunter safety out there, host things of whatever nature as far as that building facility would go, that would go alongside with shooting sports. We've had other people ask to use the range for those types of things, host birthday parties, things like that. You guys have any questions? I can ramble for a very long time. I'm exceedingly good at it. So, but that's the general gist of the project, I guess. And so that would be, that's the deal. And when we do that, we're gonna move the skeet range from its current position to the opposite side of the range, more centrally located, so that it's further away from the road. It's a safer thing. So we don't have to cease fire while we're shooting for the day with the high school kids, and get a little further away from the walking paths. So yeah, it's not currently in the way with, I should say that in a different way. The walking path goes behind the skeet range, but if people choose to go out and around, then they are where we have to stop, which is fine, but just don't want that to be an issue. So we're looking to move it.
You have a road right there too, don't you, on the north
To the
side?
north, it's not very traveled, but when there are vehicles, we do cease fire.
Oh,
It's,
okay.
yeah, we can see them before they see us. Yeah.
That's all I got. I just wanted to hear a little something about it, I
Yep,
guess, being that
that's-
you guys
That's the
showed
idea.
up. So it sounds like a great project, so.
I hope so. We have a pretty enthusiastic team that we have in the high school, I guess. Trap's actually on its way to being a high school sanctioned sport, so that'll be pretty neat. That's, I gave my front teeth to be able to do that in high school instead of playing golf. Anyway, but, all right, thanks for hearing us out.
Thank you. All right, guys, anything else on the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second that.
All right, got a motion, a second to approve the consent agenda. Any discussion on that one? There is one thing I did want to add. There was another very large request from the Tioga Historical Society, and you can see on the Tioga Fund application, it was approved, but it's contingent on matching grants from the 1% committee and then the visitors promotion to reach the $363,000 total. So just so you know, that one's not signed because there's some contingencies that need to be met there too. Okay, let's vote.
Yes.
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 And yes, motion carries. Okay, public comment. Does anybody have anything they want to talk about? Maybe pertaining to a floodplain management ordinance? Okay, crickets. Go ahead, Kyle.
I will make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All right, we got a motion and a second to adjourn. Let's move to a vote.
Yes.
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 And yes, motion carries, and we are adjourned at 8:23 PM.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Liz.
Thanks.